What's up, party people of the SFL? Welcome to episode 26 of Axis Live. I could tell you guys could all hear the music really well. Throw me some feedback, some shout outs. Let me know how you can hear me. Hopefully you can hear me even better than the music, because wouldn't you rather listen to me anyway? Oh, I see Cam in the house there. Axis pumping his fist in the dark with one of those plastic light bulbs from 2005. I'm like more of like 80s and 90s, bro, but I appreciate the shout out there. Anyway, welcome to episode 26 of Axis Live. I am your host, Dave Axis. We have another amazing show as always. I got to tell you, there's going to be some competition because there was an amazing show last night in that Louisiana-Jacksonville game that we will get to soon enough. Before I get there, let's recap a few things real quick. We got playoffs. We're talking about playoffs? Playoffs? Yeah, we're talking about playoffs. In the After Dark portion tonight, Cam is with us again. We're going to be talking about the new seedings for the playoffs. Who moved up, who moved down, who moved in, who moved out, all that good stuff. We've got something a little extra special for you, and I'll get to that as in regards to the Diva of the Week nominees. So stick around for that as well. Let me throw some shout outs here. Let's see who's in the house. Who wants to party on a Tuesday night with Dave right here? Bob Funk wants to party with me. Dustin Zeck, about 60%. Oh, I know who that is, Amy. Extra Blue X, I know that's Frank. Freddie, you're in the house. Fierce Pierce 06, welcome back, bro. Appreciate you being here. Ethan, good to see you. Charles is in the house. Pink Lisa, the love of my life, is here. Pink Lisa in the house, always. Jack Wall, what's up, bro? Good to see you here. Dick Shot, good to see you, bro. The Mighty Joe Young, you're always here. Good to see you. Wiggy 9800, Twin Screw. Art Vandalay, Benji, Wiggy, Coach. Damn, we got a full house. Ace, the best quarterback in the league. Ace Fennec is in his house, ladies and gentlemen. Riddler, Monica Naka. Oh, Ethan, your Duran Duran, it's coming, bro. It'll be here probably Thursday or next week, I think. I've been looking. You know me. I'm looking for the right mixes, and then I'll throw that bad boy out there. Tom's here. Nick Meyer. Rock Ren. Our Cochran. Ron, good to see you, buddy. Thanks for being here. Doug Britton, good to see you in the house. B. Robo, my boy Robo. Just so you guys know, B.E. Robo, the tight end of Louisiana, is a longtime friend of mine. We were in the Marine Corps together. We've been friends for 30 years. I'm glad to see him having success in Louisiana on a great team, and I'm glad that he's here in the SFL with his buddy Dave Axis. All right, Cam, I see you too. John Bond. Man, we got a lot of people here. What's going on? You guys, we must be talking about playoffs, I guess. All right, I guess we might as well get this show on the road. I saw Gunny jump in at the last second, too. Thank God, because he's on the show. Oh, and AJ. I see AJ. Welcome, AJ. Good to see you again, sweetie, as always. All right, let's get our panel introduced. So, a lot of these names you know already. A lot of my solid, faithful panelists are back with us again. First, from Epic Esports and the Fort Worth Toros, we've got Cameron Curtis in the house tonight. Cameron, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing great. Good to be here. Thank you very much.
Of course, man. Thanks for being here again. Also, a show regular, part of Sim Scouts, Inc., and the number one tight end for the Las Vegas Fury, Frank the Franchise Wade is back with us. Frank, what's going on, bro?
Hey, always great to be here, Dave. Always great.
Love having you. Thomas Smith, the free safety for my beloved, glorious Lone Star Glory, who had an interception at the end of our game the other night, and also with Sim Scouts, Inc., is with us tonight as well. Thomas, welcome back, bro.
Hey, Dave. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing outstanding. Of course, we have Gunny's in the house, and our special guest. He did an After Dark portion for us the other night, talking about playoffs, and he's here to actually be a panelist and break a couple games down for us before we even get to the After Dark portion. Ladies and gentlemen, your commissioner, Cameron Irvine. Cam, what's going on?
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
Oh my gosh, Becky. What? I was worried that you were even going to make it here in time, Cam.
Oh, but I did.
Yes, you did. You made it just in time. All right, so there's your panel tonight. Cam's your special guest. We got a lot going on. It's going to be a busy show, so let's just jump right into it. First game of the weekend, the 3 p.m. game on Saturday on Twitch, Queen City at Denver. We had Jeremy on the show last week. I had been talking a little smack about if they were for real. Last week they proved for real. Thomas, it looks like they just keep proving they're for real.
I'll tell you what, Dave. With our upcoming matchup against Queen City, I wanted to talk to my buddy Chris Curtis about this a little bit. He said it was a rough game. I looked at his stats. I saw he was out there definitely balling out. He had over 100 yards. He had a touchdown. He said just the way things are going for them right now, they've had some tough games. They definitely need to win more of these games if they have a hope of making the playoffs again. Obviously, nobody expected a 20-point loss from the 4-time champions, but Denver's definitely shown that they're for real, that they're hoping to make a long playoff run. Some of the key contributors of this game, obviously, I just mentioned Curtis was one of the bright spots for Queen City with over 100 yards and a touchdown. For the Night Wings, they had Josh Miller out there throwing for 312 and 2 touchdowns. Jared McChesney went off, had 213 yards and 3 touchdowns. Just overall, it was a great game for Denver, dropping 44 points, playing solid defense, holding Queen City under 25 points. And it was just an entertaining game all around. It wasn't boring for either team, really. There was a lot of scoring, 68 total points between the teams, and it was just a great game.
Yeah, a lot of points, like you said. I guess it would help if I actually put the graphic up while you're talking about the game. What do you think about that? That would probably be a good start. See what happens when Cam is late? He throws me off. I'm going to blame it all on Cam. Real quick, yeah, so as you're looking at the graphics, you can see the stats for the game. Denver with over 500 yards, 200 of that rushing. Queen City, again, only able to manage 56 yards on the ground And again, that goes to what we've been talking about. Coach hit on it. Eddie Gage hit on it about these fullbacks moving to halfback, really needing probably a good season under their belt to get going. Cam just put in the chat, graphics were later than me. Yeah, they are. See, I was so worried about you. I had to put an APB out on you. I wasn't able to do my job, Cam. So how's that for deflection? In any event, Denver for real, obviously. 68 points scored in this game. Jack's data had an over/under of 54.5, and they had Denver favored by 10.5. They didn't get the over/under, but they definitely covered. And here we go, SFL Nation. Let's start off the weekend with a win. 158-30 in the Who You Got, Denver over Queen City. We come out the gate 1-0. And there you go. I was able to drag that out to keep the graphic up for you guys so you can see it, especially for you Queen City and Denver peeps. You're welcome. Moving on to game 2 on Saturday, the 3:15 game on YouTube. Arizona at Carolina. Be honest with you, I wasn't sure which way this game was going to go, Cameron. I was really high in Arizona earlier. They've been struggling. Carolina's been a roller coaster up and down. Did this game go the way you thought it was going to go?
Yes,
No.
it definitely
Oh, Cam,
went
sorry.
the way
All right, you know what? Let me real quick, Cam. We have Cameron Curtis and Cam Irvine. So, Cam, you're going to be Cam, and Cameron is going to be Cameron. How about that?
I apologize to Curtis because we were just talking about that in our chat earlier this afternoon, and I thought I didn't get that assignment, but I'm a fool.
There you go.
But I lost the point.
You know what though?
Go ahead.
Okay, we're
funny?
even. Hey, we're even. I was late on the graphic. You were premature.
I'm a
there.
noob.
There you go. Cameron Curtis, go ahead.
You know what's funny is before the show we were saying if you spoke, I was going to let you talk and just go ahead and take it.
Yeah.
And I totally forgot about that too.
Well,
Yeah,
I
so
figured
going
Cam
into
will
the
talk about any
Arizona-
game anyway, so it's fine. Go ahead, Cameron.
Going into the Arizona-Carolina game, both teams wanted to make a statement. You had Carolina that's 3-5, Arizona that's 4-4, two teams that are trying to position for playoffs. Now, the first half, it was very close. Starting off in the first quarter, Arizona struck first. Anthony Weil early with an interception, putting Arizona in great position for DJ Moses to score on the next play for a 7-0 start. After that, Arizona was pretty quiet in the first quarter, and Logan Jack started showing up. Going into the game, he led the league in receptions, and that was over wide receivers, tight ends. I mean, just total receptions, he led the league. Second quarter, Logan Jack got a big run, 28 yards down to the 1-yard line, which allowed a pass on the next play from Richardson to Prashad. And then mid-second, it was tied 7-7. Carolina blocked a kick, and that was a huge moment. Scorpions basically got a kick block. Later on, Michelle Colson got an interception, and that pretty much started a lot of the turnovers on both sides.
Now, Ray had a few interceptions, didn't she?
Yeah, she ended the game with 3 interceptions.
Wow.
But just by the half, she had one there. Going into the half, it was the stats were pretty even. Passing yards, running yards were pretty much within 10 to 20 of each other. The time of possession was only within 10 seconds. But the big key between the two was third down conversions. Carolina had 66% of a third down conversion opposed to Arizona with 33%. Their offense didn't get going early on, and going into the second half, they were hoping to turn that around. Into the third quarter, Arizona came out very quiet for the third quarter offensively. Defensively, they did pretty well. Carolina, Logan Jack got a 40-yard touchdown in the third. They also got a field goal. Rochelle Colson got another interception. And then all the way into the fourth quarter, there was 50-yard field goal by Whistle, and he had 4 field goals in the second half. And Colson ended up getting another interception. So I think the big thing was the offense. I mean, both teams played great on defense. For Arizona, you had Anthony Weil and Joey Tropicana. They both had a pick. Defense for Carolina, Rochelle Colston had 6 tackles, 3 picks, and Whistle Jones had 4 field goals on the day, all in the second half. But what really turned everything around, I think, was the productivity that Carolina had going in their offense. With Sully Richardson, 37-45, 279 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have 2 picks, but it pretty much counteracted each other with what Arizona had going on. The big part on offense was Harish Prasad and Logan Jack. Harish Prasad had 6 receptions for 75 yards, 2 touchdowns. But Logan Jack had 17 on the ground, 17 attempts for 133 yards, a touchdown. But then he had 11 receptions for 64 yards.
You know, here's the thing. Arizona started off the season really well, and we thought they were going to be one of the teams to beat. I think they were 4-1 at one point, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 3-1. And AJ was playing out of her mind. The last few weeks, I think it seems to me as AJ goes, Arizona goes. So I'm hoping that Eddie's able to turn this around, because the way, and we'll talk about playoffs later, like we said, but the playoff standings that came out earlier, looks like Arizona already dropped down a spot or two. And, if they lose another game, they might be out of the playoffs altogether. So Arizona really needs to get their act together. In the meantime, for those of you watching your screens, I have an update from Geraldo Rivera that we are now 9 weeks with a clean bill of health for Harish. So Harish Watch 2020, Geraldo Rivera reporting, all is good in the hood. So there you go. I hope it doesn't happen in the playoffs. That if Carolina makes the playoffs, that could be rough. Go the whole season, and not that I'm jinxing you, Harish, or anything, but I'm just saying. All right, moving on to Game 3. Atlanta at Tulsa, your 5:30 game on Saturday, was on 11 Sports. The reigning champs at Tulsa. Actually, let me back up real quick. Arizona, Carolina, 47 points scored. The over-under from Jack's data was 39.5. It had Arizona favored by 3.5, which they did not cover. But at least the over-under was within the 10 that I like to talk about. SFL Nation, not too great, though. 105-83 in favor of Arizona. So we come out the gate 1-1 after 2 games in the Who You Got. Moving on to Atlanta, the reigning champs at Tulsa. I don't think a lot of people were giving Tulsa much chance. Decent game overall, Cam, I think. But Atlanta, just too much firepower for Tulsa, I think.
The defending champs will not go quietly, will they?
No, they won't.
It's really interesting how Atlanta has evolved into more of a passing team, despite losing their star quarterback and MVP Marcus Dunhill. Here's the stat of the season for the Swarm. 4 times this season, Bryant Dynasty has thrown the ball over 40 times. In the previous 3 games, Sioux Falls, Denver, and Arizona, they lost them all. The Tulsa game was the first time Dynasty threw 40-plus times and the team won, scoring the most points they have all season in the process. My guess is that Hollywood is ready to be a breakout star on the ground when Atlanta needs him to be and knows how to get the yards they need out of him. The Swarm, in using the season and weapons to fine-tune their passing game, will be a well-oiled machine come playoffs if their bets on that passing game and this talented rookie pay off. Tulsa's roller coaster season continues, but the one trend for the Desperados is how they start their games. In Tulsa's 3 wins, they've outscored their opponents 61-20 in the first half, about a 10-point halftime lead on average. But in the 6 losses, Tulsa's first quarter scoring totals are just 16 points.
Wow. With
just 1 touchdown back in week 2 against Chicago. They have not played well from behind, and they dig themselves holes. The last 3 losses, Tulsa scored nothing in the first quarter, and they fell behind 14-0 to Atlanta. Here's the good news for Tulsa. They've got Mexico City, Lone Star, and Denver, 3 teams over 500, and winning out would probably mean playoffs with tiebreakers, especially if Las Vegas or Queen City can get hot. The bad news is Tulsa plays Mexico City, Lone Star, and Denver. One of the most difficult, if not the most difficult schedule to close out the season. But if they start fast, they are upset potential.
I was about to say that's a really big if to get into playoffs, but it would be extremely impressive if they can pull it off. Jack's data had the over-under at 49.5 in this game. Atlanta and Tulsa putting 57 up on the board. Atlanta, 37 of those all by themselves. Their offense is really clicking. And Tulsa was actually favored by 3 in this game. That's, I think, the thing that surprised me the most about this game. Not the outcome, not dynasties play, none of that. The fact that Tulsa was even favored. We're back in the win column, SFL Nation. 132-53. We took Atlanta to go 2-1 on Saturday, going into the last game, which was Baltimore at St. Louis. I personally wasn't able to watch this game, and it's probably a good thing because, Frank, it looks like St. Louis just didn't have it that day. I don't know what happened, so you're going to have to tell me as you tell everybody else.
Well, Baltimore's a pretty good team. I've said all season that they're one of the most balanced teams that we have out there. Cairo Martinez had some bright spots during the season, but this weekend was not one of them. He struggled to find running lanes and was unable to do much receiving. Javier Vasquez was a game manager by throwing his passes. He was 35 of 47, almost 75%, 261 yards, only threw one interception, and that lone interception came with 125 to go in the first half on a 50-50 ball that could have put St. Louis in the end zone and take the lead, but Austin Brigham makes a leaping grab to give Baltimore the ball. Wigmore, who finished with 26 out of 29, almost 90% completion with 208 yards. He takes the Vultures down the field, drive the lane, almost lose the ball on a Gaines fumble, but they're able to get it back. And then later in the drive, Gaines was able to find his way into the end zone to make it a 10-point lead. I mean, that's a 14-point swing right there.
Yeah.
The very next possession, Gaines scores again, putting Baltimore up 17. T-Roy Gaines, found the end zone 4 times. He was 19 carries, 165 yards, and 4 total touchdowns. Eagle Mondavi continues to be the go-to guy for St. Louis. He had 9 receptions for 103 yards. He was targeted 14 times. So he's doing well in his rookie season. Phil Koss is the one that scores the St. Louis lone touchdown. Ivory Irvin and Mac Chima had mirroring numbers. They both were targeted 8 times. Both had 7 receptions. Irvin with 56 yards. Mac with 57 yards. So pretty balanced there. After being down 17-0 at the half, St. Louis had to punt on the first possession, and it was blocked, setting Baltimore up at the St. Louis 21. One play later, Gaines puts on a massive stiff arm inside the 5 for a 21-yard touchdown run. Alvin Mack continues to let the SFL Nation know who he is with his team leading 11 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 tackle for loss. Wow. Freeman Pelletier had 9 tackles, and Colin Douglas had 8 tackles for St. Louis. St. Louis ran into a very good Baltimore team. And once they fell behind by 24, you could sense that the big-time comeback was just not going to happen. Gaines sealed the deal with a 76-yard TD run in the 4th, and the fight was out to the Gladiators. Now, Baltimore finishes up with Sioux Falls at home, London there, and Arizona at home. So those are three winnable games, but a couple of them they're going to have to fight to pull them out.
Yeah. It's going to be real fun to see everybody's last 3 games and how that's going to affect playoffs and positioning and stuff. Somebody in the chat mentioned something about St. Louis. A lot of people on the panel the other night saying that St. Louis would win this game, but I just looked it up. It was actually even 3-3. So 3 people from the panel took Baltimore and 3 took St. Louis. So it was actually 50-50. 41 points in this game. Jack's Data had the over-under at 54.5, and they had Baltimore favored by 6.5. Both of those, they weren't anywhere close on the over/under, but Baltimore just took it to St. Louis and more than covered that. SFL Nation, though, 3-1 for the day with a 135-50. Who you got picked? Baltimore over St. Louis. So 3-1, great start out the gate. Moving into Sunday, the first game on Sunday was Chicago at Las Vegas, 2:30 p.m. game on 11 Sports. I've talked about Las Vegas's home field advantage all season long. Cameron, was home field really even? 20-point win. So was it really that vital, or did Vegas just stomp Chicago, or what happened?
Well, Vegas definitely wanted to try to keep Scott Johnson on fire. He's in the past couple weeks he's been doing pretty good. Chicago wanted to let them know that, hey, we're still here and we're going to try to take you over. But what ended up happening is The game opened up with a Wildcats pick 6 by Jesse Vick, putting Chicago on top 7-0. And then late in the first, Chicago got a 46-yard field goal thanks to Rob Ems, and they were on a 10-0 start in this game. Otis Boudreau answered back with a field goal, narrowing the gap. So going into the half, right before that, Scott Johnson got a 34-yard run, which changed the momentum in that game completely. And he found the end zone shortly after that for 6. And going into the half, it was 13-10. Looking at the stats, Chicago was really not able to get it done on the ground. It was only 21 yards rushing. Both teams were about 100 yards passing at the half. But the time of possession for Vegas, they were able to keep the ball with running with Scott Johnson. Going into the second half, Chicago only scored 10 points to Vegas's 27 points for the rest of that game. 2 of them were defensive touchdowns for Vegas, which helped seal the deal. They were both pick 6s, one by Thomasina Rahman and one by Max Jackson. Looking at some of the stats for Vegas, defensively, Tank Cut had 2 sacks, Rhett Sawyer had a sack, and Max Jackson had 6 tackles, 2 interceptions, and a touchdown. Defensively for Chicago, they actually did a good job defensively in the first half. 2 tackles and a pick 6 for Jesse Vick. Ryan Joseph had 2 tackles and a pick. And they just weren't able to contain Vegas's offense in the second half. The final stats were passing yards. Chicago had 293. Las Vegas had 268. But rushing, they dominated with 90 yards opposed to 41. But the time of possession is really where it made a difference. 24 minutes and 25 seconds for Las Vegas opposed to 19-12 for Chicago.
Yeah, I see that. I mean, if you look at just the stats, it looks like this is a lot closer game than it really was. 60 points scored in this game. Jack's data had the over-under at 49.5, so that's kind of close to that 10-point barrier that I like to talk about. They had Vegas favored by 7. They more than covered that. And look at us, SFL Nation, 3 in a row, and starting Sunday off with a W, 151-30 in favor of Las Vegas. Moving on to game 2 for Sunday, one of the games that I said would be one of the games of the week. I mean, we all knew Louisiana and Jacksonville would be the game of the week, but one of 3 that I personally picked as the best games of the week. It was also the crowd play game of the week. It was also my personal favorite game of the week, Frank. Was it your favorite game too, Frank?
It was one of my favorites. It was my boy Dave Axis helped set the tone for the Glory with 2 early catches that led to an early 3-point lead.
Love that guy.
Dave, do what?
I love that guy.
Dave finished with only 5 catches though, but he had 101 yards. Didn't see much of him in the second half, but the tone had been set. He's become a good target for Ace Fennick. Phoenix Jones was back from Mexico City and appeared to be ready to go with a couple of good early runs, but finished with 43 yards. He started off, with a couple of good runs, like I said, and then just kind of fizzled out. Had 14 carries, 43 yards, and no touchdowns. Matt Wilson was 28 of 44 for 297 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. Keeps going to the man, Mike Daggs. He might not be the sexiest or the best sounding tight end, but he's the most productive tight end in the league. Mike finished with 12 receptions on 14 targets, 162 yards. Did not find the end zone, however. Ace Fennick was protected much better than Wilson. Ace was 26 of 35, almost 75%, 288 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. He was not touched by the defensive line of Mexico City, not sacked at all. Ike McBride had a good game with 13 carries, 112 yards, and a touchdown. A big run of 50 yards in the game. Adam Williams was a little quiet this week. He had the stats as far as catching the ball, but nothing really stood out. No touchdowns, but he did help move the chains. He did have a lot of yards on 4 catches. Lincoln Kingseed Jr. has been a valuable piece of the Lone Star Glory defense, and he has not disappointed with us this weekend with 15 total tackles and an interception. Thomas Smith also had a pick for the Glory. Matthew Lee led Mexico City with 10 tackles, and Jeffrey Daggs had an interception. The story here is the game in the trenches. The defensive line of Mexico City only combined for 5 tackles and did not get close to Finnick once. Who had all day to throw. Al Lewis, the defensive tackle for the Glory, had 5 tackles and a sack by himself. The O-line, the Caudell boys, protected Finnick and well and opened up lanes for McBride to run through. That has had questions now flying around about the future for some. Watch the Lone Star Glory make a run at one of the top seeds with the games that they have remaining with Queen City, Tulsa, and Chicago left on the schedule.
Yeah, let me be the first to say that I did not expect this kind of game as far as the points, as far as the score went. I thought this would be a lot closer game. Mexico City is just an incredible franchise with a lot of great history, great coaches, great players. Speaking of Dags, he's one of many very productive tight ends, not just this past week, but this entire season. Jack's data had the over-under at 54.5 with 43 points scored in this game, so that was pretty close. Had Lone Star favored by 3, which we definitely covered that. And I remember on Thursday, I had said that we were, I think, just behind a little bit in the Who You Got. Well, by the time everything was tallied up, we were up 92 to 88. So SFL Nation 4 in a row, starting off 2-0 in the Who You Got. So SFL Nation crushing it so far this week. Moving on to the middle game on Sunday, 6:30 p.m. On 11 Sports. Vancouver at Sioux Falls. This is one of the other games, Thomas, that I said would be an amazing game. It would be close. It would be one of the games of the week. We did get a close game, but tell us about it.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dave. If you look at the stat line for this game, you'd think the score was a lot different than what ended up happening. It really came down to those 2 interceptions. Sioux Falls didn't turn the ball over. They didn't get a lot of yardage on, obviously. They only had 198 yards of offense. Really got doubled up by Vancouver in offense, but those 2 interceptions really killed Vancouver at the end of it. Vancouver dominated pretty much every stat: passing yards, rushing yards, efficiency. They were better on third down. They had twice as many first downs. Tom Pepper played pretty well, except for those 2 interceptions, having 225 yards on 66% passing. And then Robert Redford came out averaging 5 yards a carry with 150 yards and a touchdown. Those turnovers are what really killed Vancouver in this. It was crazy to me that Sioux Falls won this game only throwing 77 passing yards. That's insane that they were able to pull it out with that. Colin Hart still had a solid game, one of the league's top 5 rushers, having 89 rushing yards, and he added a catch for 4 yards as well. It just came down to Sioux Falls really efficient, really talented defense pulling this game out for them.
Yeah, you're right. You look at the stats, and there's no way you think this game goes the way it goes. They scored 36 points in the game, and the over-under was 49.5. And I think us in the public, in addition to Jack's data, expected a higher scoring game than this, but the defenses showed up. Sioux Falls was favored by 7, so they didn't cover, but it was close. And, man, SFL Nation, we are on fire. We are in fuego right now. 151 to 41. We took Sioux Falls to give us 4 in a row, starting off Sunday 3-0. Could this be our best Who You Got ever? Well, let's find out. Let's move on to Florida at Portland, one of the first of the 2 evening games, 9 p.m. on Twitch. I don't know what there is to say, Cameron, about this game other than it was 31-0, bro.
So a lot can still be said about it. We'll talk first about the rushing. This was not a rushing game. Both sides, both defenses did very well against the run. For Florida, Doyle was only able to get 56 yards on 13 attempts, averaging 4.3 yards per carry, and John Trusman for Portland was only able to get 30 yards for 13 attempts. But where it lacked the running, this game was an air show. They had 615 total passing yards combined between both teams. Unfortunately, Mass South wasn't able to find the end zone this game. He was picked off twice. He was 35-48, 245 yards. And Ron Cochran was able to get 370 yards and 4 touchdowns. He had 2 receivers over 100 yards with Jeff Como, 9 receptions, 152 yards, and Optimus Klein, 13 receptions, 123 yards. Both of them had touchdowns. And Veridin Zarkov had the other 2 touchdowns passing. But it all basically started with a long bomb in the second quarter where Ron Cochran hit Jeff Como for 49 yards. But I mean, after that, Florida just basically took it away.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish, Cameron. Sorry.
Portland tried getting back into it, but no matter how hard they tried, they weren't able to. I mean, they have productive receivers. Connor Weston, Lozano, Art Vandelay, Valentine. They all had pretty much around 50 to 80 yards. 10 receptions for Connor Weston, 6 for Vandelay and Lozano, and 7 for Valentine.
Yeah, and again, this is another, fullback transition to halfback that I think maybe next year will be known a lot better. So, real quick, Cam Irvine in the chat said, "I want Benji staring right into the camera with a lynx on his lap, wearing all black." After Benji talked about an all tight end calendar, I don't know what is going on in chat, but I'm gonna have to look away, I think, or put blinders on. Jack's data. 38 had 38.5 as the over-under in this game. Florida-Portland scored 31. Well, Florida scored 31. So that was pretty close. Florida favored by 6.5. They more than covered that. And oh my gosh, Becky, SFL Nation, 148-42 over Florida. We are having a perfect Sunday so far. I hope I don't jinx it. Moving into the nightcap on Sunday. Fort Worth at Charleston. A lot of defense in this game. I mean, some decent yards, Cam, but not a lot of scoring. 2 great defensive teams. This was kind of a grinding game.
Yeah, Dave. Fort Worth and Charleston appeared to be heading down the road to Snooze Fest town.
Yeah.
Charleston led 6-3 at the half before some offense broke out in the second half, and then things got a little bit interesting. Charleston's defense always comes to play, and they took care of business at home. But the Toros may look back on this season, Dave, and say, what if? What if?
Yeah.
Fort Worth has beaten Sioux Falls, and not just beaten, bludgeoned 51-17, went on the road and shut out St. Louis, a team above them in the playoff race, and took out Queen City emphatically too. 3 impressive wins, coupled with 3 losses by 7 points or less. The only times this season the Toros have truly struggled were against Lone Star twice and Florida. And those losses don't look too bad now, do they?
Not at all.
TD Drew looked good again for Charleston, a careful and collected 34 of 39 for 250 yards against a dangerous Toros secondary, and Swearingen was good. 20 carries, 95 yards, and a touchdown. Charleston isn't flashy and isn't going to wow you with impressive stats, but Charleston counters with largely mistake-free football. Just 15 turnovers in 9 games is top 5 in the league. They don't beat themselves, and after a brutal schedule, they appear to be on the inside track as long as they can take care of Portland this week. Nothing is ever a guarantee, except Axis complaining about his sleeves, or Axis looking at the mirror, oozing with confidence, or Axis trying not to make it about him when we all know that he is.
That's kind of my shtick right there. I try to pretend like it's about you guys, right?
But I've gotten off topic. Point is, Fort Worth has beaten themselves in close games and did it again. An 11-play, 54-yard drive ended in a field goal. A 10-play, 72-yard drive ended in a field goal. And a 10-play, 29-yard drive ended in a punt. They're not as bad as their record, but Charleston made the plays when they needed them.
Yeah, and they're going to have to start making more plays because I know that they're in the driver's seat with the teams that have that record, but a couple other teams get a couple more wins, then they're gonna need some W's too to stay in the race, which we'll talk about more afterwards. But yeah, this game was a grind, man. It was a grind and a half. Jack's data had the over/under of 51.5, only 32 points scored. They had Charleston favored by 3.5, which was really close. And man, look at us 5-0 on a Sunday, SFL Nation. We took Charleston 135-50. We have a 7-game winning streak going into the first of the Monday night doubleheader, which was Houston at London. Now, I'll be the first one to say we were kind of down on Houston on Thursday. We had a lot of confidence in London winning 2 in a row. Them getting ready to play at home again. I'll have to look back. Actually, I'll just do it right now. The London game, 1, 2, 3, 4, perfect sweep. Nobody on the panel, Frank, at all on the panel from Thursday picked Houston to win.
Well, if I wasn't there Thursday, I think I was. I think I picked Houston. Who you got? I'm not. I got to go back and look, but I just knew at some point, and I love. I got some good buddies playing for London. At some point, that party was fixing to be over. We had deja vu in London, a fumbled punt return for a TD by the kicking team. Unfortunately, London was on the wrong end of this one. After one possession each, Houston has to punt. London returner Dustin Zeck fumbles, and backup corner Curtis White scoops and scores. Warren Murray, he finishes with 23 carries, 208 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Breaks a 53-yard touchdown run, making it 14-3. Angus McLean, he's 22 completions, 285 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. And one of those interceptions goes to Everett Garrison, his 5th of the year. It just seems like, he's only got 5, but it seems like he's picking one off every week. The first play after the interception, Murray breaks free again for 51 yards and a touchdown. He has 152 yards rushing at the half. And quickly, before the first quarter is over, London is down 21-3. The running game for London was not quite there at this point, but they didn't give up. Robert Merrill, he ends up with 17 carries and 63 yards. Iggy Swift had 10 carries for 36 yards. A TD pass from Kentez Johnson. He was 15 of 21 for 229 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception. This Houston offense can explode when it needs to. It's just unfortunate that it hasn't been consistent. But that touchdown goes to bad Leroy Brown. He ended up with 4 receptions, 107 yards, and that 1 TD there. London had chances, but the special teams touchdown, we had some drops. 3 interceptions was way too much for them to overcome. My vote for defensive rookie of the year, Brody Gulch. Gulch had 11 tackles, still leading the team. He fell behind in the overall category behind Mel Davis from Portland by about 4 tackles. Ethan Kai had 8 tackles and a forced fumble. Brady Clark also had an interception. Fox Highwind had a TD, and Vin Kalia, he finishes with 7 receptions, 116 yards, but no touchdown. He continues to be the slinging Scotsman's favorite target. My former teammate, Demo Crew, Jeff Gagne, led the Jeff Gagne led the Knights in tackles with 7 and 1 tackle for loss. London made a good attempt to come back in front of the home crowd, but Houston kept the pressure on, and the hole was too deep to climb out of.
Yeah, I mean, 450 yards, extremely balanced, only 1 turnover. I mean, Houston just really took it to him. Jack's data had the over-under at 52.5, and these teams, they blew that out of the water with 76 points. They had Houston favored by 3.5. Again, they blew that out of the water as well. And look at us, SFL Nation. That is 1, 2, 5, 7, 8 in a row. We took Houston 98-90 to go 9-1 heading into the last game on Monday night, which we all know. We talked about it on Thursday. You were all witness to it last night. Not only the game of the week, but so far, definitely the game of the year for season 15. Here's the thing. Can we get to double digits, SFL Nation, and who you got? Let's find out real quick. But first, Thomas, what a game. There's so much to say about this. I'm just going to hand it over to you and let you do your thing.
I'll tell you what, Dave, hearing about this game, watching it was a great game to watch, but a couple things just confused me. Louisiana's got this guy that I'm not sure I ever heard of before. His name's something like Johnny Peichler or something like that. had 3 carries for -4 yards. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Maybe he might be one of those fullbacks transitioning to halfback guys, maybe.
I guess so. No, I'm kidding. The best team in the league, Louisiana, came out and they really showed up for this game. First off, I just want to laud who they have at head coach right now, Mike Twinscrew, putting together a fantastic game plan against a very talented team. Just seeing the way the Louisiana offense performed in this game, Johnny Pickler throwing for 350 yards and 6 touchdowns. You think, okay, well, those are some great stats. They must have scored a ton of points just from that. Probably didn't have much of a running game, though. No, you'd be wrong there, too. 196 yards from Reggie Streeter to go with those 350 passing yards. There was over 1,000 yards of offense between these two teams, and it was just an exciting game to watch. The first half was pretty close. I believe the score was 24-24 at halftime. I might be a little bit off there. And then just that final score of them scoring over 80 combined points is just crazy to me. 80 points, 1,000 yards of offense. Huge performance by the Louisiana offense. And then you look on the other side to Jacksonville, and their team played extremely well as well. You see CC threw for 437 yards. The 5 interceptions he threw were killer. Those turnovers definitely hit them hard. Again, mentioning Mike Twinscrew, he ended up having 2 touchdowns in this, or not Mike Twinscrew, I'm sorry, Mike St. Green ended up having 2 touchdowns in this game, had 282 return yards and a kick return touchdown for 98 yards.
Wow.
To go with 4 catches for 92 yards and a touchdown. It was a fantastic game. And then just seeing Louisiana showing what they've got against a really talented opponent on the road. Best team in the league by far. I think Denver's up there with them, but Louisiana really showed in this game that they've got what it takes.
Yeah, I would say I agree with you. I think Louisiana and Denver are the cream of the crop, with the edge going to Louisiana, beating both Baltimore and now Jacksonville on the road. Again, kudos to Mike Twinscrew, like you said, just a hell of a job. And I was looking back at the panel on Thursday night. I wanted to see how this went, and the panel actually picked Jacksonville 4-2. But the who you got, I'll go there before I go to Jack's data. We end on a loss, 119-67 Jacksonville, but we do go 9-2 in the who you got, which is the best weekend I've ever seen, in the many, many, many years and seasons I've been here. But 9-2 is nothing to shake a stick at. So great job, SFL Nation. Jack's data, and I'd like to I think I see Jack in here. Jack, I want to ask you and Hunter, have we ever had an over-under above like 70 points or more? I think like the high 60s, the highest I've ever seen it. I don't know if anybody could predict that two teams are going to score 82 points in a game. And Jack just said in the chat, he said no, they've never gone over 70 points, and which I don't blame him. I mean, who thinks that there's going to be an 82 point game? Well, apparently Louisiana and Jacksonville. So they blew the over under out of the water. This was a pick 'em. When we talked about it on Thursday, Jack's data did make an adjustment that I didn't catch in time for the show. They had Jack's data favored 2.5, but I think the pick'em was probably the better pick anyway, especially with the way this ball game went. So that wraps up week 9. We're getting ready to go to Gunny, get his pearls of wisdom this week. Gunny, are you with us right now, by the way?
Yes, sir.
And are you ready to rock and roll?
I'm ready to rock and roll.
All right, do your thing, bro.
Good evening, SFL. Congratulations to last week's Diva of the Week, Benji Madsen. In remembrance of the events of 9/11, this past Sunday afternoon, the Lone Star Glory wore the Marine dress blue uniform. This is our way to honor the military presence in the SFL. A shout out to my teammate and Marine brother Freddie Trammell for our military uniforms worn this season. To J.R. Lawless of Jacksonville, stay safe on your deployment. To Mike Twinscrew of Louisiana, salutes to you. Soon to be retired after 28 years of honorable service. To all those actively serving today, thank you. Credit to Mike All for this week's collaboration on Gunny's Pearls of Wisdom. Everyone enjoy the rest of the show. That is all.
Thank you, Gunny. Appreciate you. Appreciate everyone that has in the past and continues to fight for this country. JR, stay safe, bro. Congrats, Twin Screw, on the upcoming retirement. We're going to be moving on to the Diva of the Week nominees. I'm hoping that I don't mess this up, but there's no guarantee. We are going to try something new this week. We weren't able to do it with all of the nominees. We have 6 nominees this week for week 9. We were able to put video clips to 4 of them. There were 2. It'll be Cam and who's the other one? Cam and one other didn't. We weren't. Oh, Thomas. We just didn't have the time to get it in there. So, Cam, if you don't mind, I'd actually like you to go first, so we can give them a little more airtime since they don't have the video. Who is your Diva of the Week nominee for Week 9?
My choice for Diva of the Week
No, Cameron.
may surprise a few people.
Cam, sorry.
Oh.
Cam Irvine.
So sorry, Cameron.
Dude, I'm never having you two on the show together again, ever.
He just he screwed you. It was terrible. And by the way, thanks for slanting the vote, Dave, for not getting my Diva of the Week a highlight.
Hey, you know what? If you weren't so busy.
And thanks for letting me go first so that everyone will forget about it by the end of the night. Thanks a lot. Well,
all right, Cam, thanks for being here. We'll see you later.
we're going to try to give this guy a proper due, although bit of a diva, because my Diva of the Week, I don't think he likes to play half the time. This guy just shows up whenever he wants, and whenever he shows up, his team wins, and whenever he doesn't, they lose. And I'm not even sure that he cares. First game, 3 carries, 8 yards, gets hurt, or does he? I don't know. Just left the game. Didn't matter. Team pulled out a victory. I'm cool. Next game, 18 carries, 85 yards. Ho-hum. Didn't even get in the end zone. Loss. Next game, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns. He wins. Next game, 145 yards, 2 touchdowns, but somebody else on his team blows it, so they lose. 141 yards, 2 touchdowns. The next week, they win again. But then a couple of weeks, 40 yards on 20 carries, they lose. 97 yards on 20 carries, they lose. This guy he just cares half the time. He just doesn't care. But in London, 208 yards, 23 carries, 2 touchdowns. Warren Murray showed up, and he's my Diva of the Week.
There you go. Yeah, and I noticed that one of those first games that you talked about was actually against us, where he just completely destroyed us early in the season. So Warren Murray is Cam's Diva of the Week nominee for Week 9. Thomas, we're going to move on to you next, since you're the other one that doesn't have a video clip for tonight. So I'm going to give you the floor and let you talk about your nominee.
I tell you what, Dave, I know it's been driving you crazy that you haven't known my nominee yet.
All day.
There was a reason I've kept it hidden, and it wasn't to drive you crazy, I promise. So for me, Diva of the Week, great players. They're guys that are going to show up in wins. They're going to show up in losses. They're going to show up when it matters, and they're going to be there for their team all the time. And this week, I saw one guy show up and fight hard, and that guy was wide receiver number 88 for the St. Louis Gladiators, Eagle Mondavi. Seeing him show up, hit those 9 catches for 103 yards. Diva moment for me was that 30-yard reception. Just seeing him fight that whole game despite them struggling against Baltimore. He's my Diva of the Week.
Wow. Now I understand why you wouldn't tell us. Although I wish you would have. Maybe I would have snuck it over to Wink and we could have snuck a video for him maybe or something. But I completely understand. I love divas that are number 88. It's just kind of a thing for me. So, all right. Congrats, Eagle. You are Thomas's Diva of the Week nominee for Week 9. Here we go. So this is where I'm hoping not to mess it up. So if you're looking at your screens, I'm going to try to do the videos. But first, Cameron, I'm going to have you talk about your guy first, and then I'll go to the video. So, Cameron, who is your Week 9 Diva of the Week nominee?
My choice for Diva of the Week may surprise a few people, but when you see why I chose this person, I think many will agree with this choice. I chose to go with fullback Cameron Collier from Lone Star. Although off the top, Collier's yardage numbers didn't seem high, I must remind you all that a fullback's accomplishments can't be measured by stats alone. His level of play was exceptional. Collier averaged 5.3 yards per carry on the ground and 6.8 through the air. Combined, he had 66 yards on the day, getting 1 touchdown on the ground, 1 touchdown through the air. But for a second, put all those stats aside, and let me also remind you that Cameron's primary role is blocking, where his efforts also helped Ike McBride get 112 yards and a touchdown in that same game. And here's an example of that. The game was tied 3-3. Ike McBride ran a touchdown to the outside, but it was Cameron who got the outside block on Han Tayumi and held it all the way until Ike reached the end zone. But that wasn't his diva moment. Cameron caught a touchdown shortly after that, where this time he decided to put his head down and run over Han Tayumi while crossing into the plane in the end zone. But that also wasn't his diva moment. His diva-defining moment was in the third quarter, where Ike wanted to share the same love that he gave to Tayumi with the rest of the defense. Ike ran the ball straight up the middle, where he was contacted by 4 defenders. He broke all 4 tackles, resulting in a 19-yard touchdown. Some of these examples are very impressive to see out of a fullback. Cameron played a giant part in allowing his team to be successful for that game, and that is why he's my Diva of the Week, and I hope he can be yours.
Outstanding. I couldn't agree with you more, and I love the team he plays for. If you're watching your screens, here is Cam Collier's, 3 Cams on the show. Here's his video.
Catch there, 2 in a row for Adam Williams, and Lone Star Glory is humming again here early in the second half.
The engine is fully revved up and operational, and Cameron Collier is breaking 3 tackles, and he's going to go to the house! Cameron Collier, the fullback, with a dynamic touchdown, and Lone Star has blown this game wide open.
What a beast Cam Collier is. That is Cameron. So we got Cam and we got Cameron nominating Cam for Diva of the Week, week 9. Moving on to, oh, you know what? I'll go ahead and go. Unless, Eagle, are you ready? Are you here with us and are you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
I'm here.
All right, Eagle, who is your week 9 Diva of the Week nominee?
Oh, I mean, I'm kind of upset with Thomas because he took my Diva of the Week nominee. But no, I'm just kidding. So mine, no, I know. Mine is, I'm going with Otis Boudreau, kicker for Las Vegas. I'm not really sure why there's so much hate for Otis for what he does. It's happened since draft night. You know, I don't know what the difference is or the issue is with Mikey Ambrota, but he's been giving him a lot of crap over the season so far. So Otis himself scoring 16 points alone against Chicago this week, including a couple good field goals and having the last laugh. He is my Diva of the Week.
Okay.
Nominee.
All right. Awesome. Let's check out Otis's video on the screen.
ER counts in the SFL when it comes to these kickers.
And more importantly, Boudreau has already missed one today from this many yards out. So it's going to be, I'm surprised. I wouldn't even be surprised if they would have went for it, 4th down and 4, but they're going to try for the Otis Boudreau field goal to extend the lead back to 10.
50 yards out. Left-footed kicker.
Snap, a little bobble there. The kick is up. And this one is good from 50 yards out. He missed one earlier, but regains the form.
Look at Otis. He is another beast. He's got a leg. He's going to be an amazing kicker in this league for seasons and years to come. So congrats, Otis. You've been nominated by Eagle for Diva of the Week in week 9. I'm going to go next, I believe. Frank, I'm going to leave you for last if you don't mind. My Diva of the Week nominee for week 9 is actually someone I've known since the off season before season 14. We were rookies wanting to be drafted together. We've been friends off and on, talking here and there, whatever in the chat. And he's a great guy. But more importantly, the difference between Diva of the Week and Player of the Week is, Player of the Week is mostly stats, maybe some big plays. Diva of the Week, you have to have a diva moment. And I don't know if anybody had a better diva moment than Mr. Jeremy Mosley from the Denver franchise. 7 receptions, 96 yards, and only 1 touchdown. But watch your screens, and I'll tell you why Jeremy from the Denver Nightwings is my Week 9 Diva of the Week nominee.
Denver threatening to hit the over. They put it in the end zone here.
Throw to the end zone. Touchdown, Jeremy Mosley.
And there you have it. Another score for the Night Wings, Colin.
It's all about those dance moves, baby. Jeremy Mosley, Diva at the end of that play. I don't know if that music, I'm sure Jeremy put it to the video, but let me tell you what, you know me and my music, and with Jeremy dancing in the end zone after a great touchdown like that, to some music I like, that's it. Diva of the Week nominee, boom, Week 9. All right, your sixth and final Diva of the Week nominee is by Frank. Frank, go ahead and talk about your nominee before I play the video.
All right. The first thing I want to say about my Diva of the Week is I want you to picture a movie that you've seen where a guy is walking away in slow motion and he's got this big, huge explosion going on behind him. And you got this guy walking and like putting a cigar in his mouth and not even flinching. My Diva of the Week has stared into the eyes of the haters, even though his team is down by 17, he comes back in the second half and throws 5 of his 6 touchdowns. He throws for 347 yards on 29 completions, 6 TDs, a quarterback rating of 146.4. Perfect is 158.3. He had 5 incompletions. 4 of them were pass defended. 1 was just a bad throw. If he's putting it on the mark like that, I would not go with anybody else. 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, 2 in the third quarter to lead his team back from defeat in the face of all the things that's been thrown at him since free agency and having the best running back in the league. Streeter looked at Johnny and said, "Hey, look, I'll get my yards. You just score the points." And Pickler said, "Get on my back. I'll carry you." And he proved to the people that said, if you stop Streeter, they can't win. He's thrown for almost 400 yards in this game and 6 touchdowns, 5 in the second half. That's my Diva of the Week.
Well, here you go. And everybody check out the video on your screen. Louisiana, Jacksonville.
Jacksonville.
Strong game, Jacksonville.
Jacksonville.
Player's going to see nothing but a pride of Lions bearing down on them. Jacksonville all day long.
Give me Mike Twinscrew on a game winner at the end for Louisiana.
All right, John, you got the last word on this game.
I mean, you guys talked about how it's the game of the year right now, and the way this team is built, we're just bred for the limelight. The game may very well come down to me. I got ballers on my team. You know, I got freaks on my team. I love the brothers on my team, and they're very good at what they do. The fact is, when I do have to throw, most of you guys who are like giving me a hard time, the quarterbacks on your teams throw more to the other team than they do to their own team. So,
and there you go.
Good luck.
Johnny Pickler is Frank's Diva of the Week nominee for Week 9. Congrats to all 6 nominees. Eagle will have the voting up in the Access Live server shortly after the show, sometime tonight, or I'm sure no later than the morning, depending on if he's got baby duty tonight or not. Yeah, that's why they didn't have time for Murray, because Pickler got 6 clips. That's hilarious. Gunny. Oh, Gunny. I forgot Gunny. I'm sorry. You know what, Gunny? I skipped right over you. I am so sorry. Gunny, bring it on in.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I completely skipped right over your name. Tell us your Week 9 Diva of the Week nominee.
Well, Gunny went a little bit outside the box this week. He picked 2 divas, one from Carolina and one from London. Combined together, they're in the broadcast booth of Michael Trulio and Benji Madsen. They have brought good luck to the Lone Star Glory with this 2 weeks in a row with Lone Star victories. So those are my Divas of the Week.
Outstanding, Gunny. That's a great pick. Love you thinking outside the backs. My apologies again for skipping over you. I'll just blame it on Cam for being late. That's pretty much the show to this point. Now, you all know we have an After Dark session or segment, and tonight we are going to talk playoffs again. We've got Cam with us. We've got the panel. If you guys want, we'll take some questions or some comments. If you remember, last week. We don't need to go into as much detail. I don't need Cam to break everything down for you guys again like he did last week. But if you're looking at your screens, you can just get a quick glance at the playoff tiebreakers and the in order of importance and how things break down and how Cam explained it to everybody just last week. What I want to do, though, is I want to see what kind of movement we had, and maybe Cam can throw in some comments about the movement. So I like to talk about the top 5 first. That seems a little easier for everybody to know, and then we'll get down to the bottom portion. So this didn't change at all. Or no, Sioux Falls. Oh yeah, it did. Jacksonville moved from 3 to 5. Sioux Falls moved up. Baltimore moved over. 1 and 2 stay the same. Cam, you want anything about the obviously strength of victory came into play? It looks like for Baltimore and Sioux Falls. I think everybody assumed that Louisiana winning in Jacksonville would keep them at number 1 and Denver at number 2. Anything else that we need to know about these top 5?
Yeah, not much. Obviously the Jacksonville loss hurt, but they still have some opportunities to move up, namely this week with that big game against Florida. But yeah, I mean the strength of victory is pretty huge there for Baltimore and Sioux Falls, which makes this week's game between Baltimore and Sioux Falls mean that much more, especially for Sioux Falls. They get a win here. They're in real good shape. But a loss probably slots them either 4 or 5, and the last 2 weeks will just be figuring out where they go.
Okay. Baltimore at Sioux Falls? Do you remember?
Ooh, is
I don't
Baltimore
remember.
at Sioux Falls?
Anybody...
They are at home. They host Sioux Falls.
They host Sioux Falls. Okay. All right. Well, that makes it even more interesting. Okay, moving into the bottom half, which is where I think all the discussion is going to be. Lone Star and Mexico City switch places. I think Florida moved up. Arizona moved down. Charleston definitely moved up. Atlanta jumped in. St. Louis fell out. Here's and it comes down to, and I'm assuming head to head. Let's see. You got strength of victory. Who was the other team that was in here last week? Cam?
Chicago and Vancouver fell out.
Vancouver, that's right.
Yeah, and Atlanta, I believe Vancouver is, I think, 14th or 15th right now, but Atlanta and Houston moved in. Vancouver and Chicago moved out to this 8 right here.
Okay, so I think the number one surprise to everybody has got to be Vancouver not in the playoff mix. I mean, they destroyed us in week, I think it was 3, and they were just rolling, and they've just, I don't even know what to say. I like that Atlanta's back in. Here's a funny little side note. So if I'm understanding these correctly, top 5 teams have buys. If this were to kick off today, Lone Star would be hosting Atlanta?
That is correct.
So I would be going against my team that I won the championship with last season in the first round of the playoffs in the wild card.
That is correct.
That would be amazing. So that would be great. So Atlanta, if you don't mind staying right at 11, I think that would be a lot of fun. Dynasty, see what you can do about that. That would be amazing. I think what the other thing that really sticks out to me is Charleston continuing to move up. They were 13, I believe, last week. They're jumping up to 9. Charleston, if they just keep winning, I think they're going to end up being the team that we thought they were at the beginning of the season. Minus that tough schedule, obviously. Anything else in here that you want to touch on, Cam, before I take any questions from anybody?
Well, a note about Vancouver. Their losses are all impressive. Jacksonville, Baltimore, Mexico City, Louisiana, Sioux Falls. That's a really good loss resume. And they did beat Lone Star, who's above 500, so they do have a win over an above 500 team. But it's going to be hard for them because they weren't able to beat any of those upper echelon teams. It's going to be hard for them to get in at 6-6. Good news for them is they have Arizona, Carolina, Houston, 3, 4, and 5 teams to close out the season, and I believe 2 of them are at home. They got to win some ball games, and if they win out, they should be fine and considered a pretty dangerous team. But they needed a signature win. I think they thought they had it against Sioux Falls, and they just couldn't get it.
Any Week 10 matchups amongst these teams that we're looking at here, 6 through 13?
Oh, you better believe it. There's a 9-way tie for 4 and 5, and 6 of those teams play each other this week.
Oh, amazing.
It's a 4 and 5 bonanza. I think Houston plays Carolina, Vancouver plays Arizona, and who am I missing? Atlanta plays Vegas. So a lot of 4 and 5 teams are going to end up either 4 and 6 or 5 and 5. It's basically the start of playoffs for this group of 8 trying to jockey for position. And I think Lone Star, again, was a big winner. I mentioned it earlier today in my community chat, but Florida has not beaten a team above 500, but they have Jacksonville and Louisiana as 2 of their last 3 games. So if Florida gets hot, that SOV could spike.
Yeah.
And Florida could make some noise, maybe even in that 5-6 spot if they get hot. So it really interesting what they have left on their schedule.
Let me go to the panel real quick before I go to questions. I'll start with Cameron at the top, and I'll work my way down. A couple, Frank and Thomas had to go, so basically I'm going to go to Eagle and Gunny after I go to Cameron. Cameron, anything stick out in either the top 5, which it's the same top 5 but jumbled up from last week, or in this 6 through 13, or maybe somebody that you don't even see on the screen?
I honestly don't know what's going to happen in the top 5. I mean, anything could happen between any of those teams. They're all amazing. I do expect Arizona to come up a little bit more. But I mean, off the top, that's what I see right now.
Yeah, Cam, do you have a schedule in front of you? Do you know who? And Cam Irvine, sorry. Arizona's last 3 games.
Yeah, Arizona plays. They play. Sorry, why can't I find it? Vancouver this week, and then they host Sioux Falls, and then they're at Baltimore.
Oh, so that's not easy.
It's one of the hardest schedules left.
That's really tough. Eagle, what about you? What stands out to you?
I'm gonna go with Vancouver out right now, but I think it's gonna be kind of like a scene from The Anchorman, where all those news anchors have just random weapons and fighting for those last spots. That magic number for me is 7. If you get 7 wins, you're easily into the playoffs. So I think that 9, 10, and 11 seeds are going to probably be 6 and 6 seeds for this playoffs.
Yeah, Cam, do you see it that way too? 7 being kind of the magic number?
Yeah, right now 8 clinches you, but once a lot of these 4 and 5 teams, at least 3 of them will lose this week. And so what that does is the more 4 and 5 teams that fall to 4 and 6, the more that 7 wins clinches you a playoff spot, right? So we're almost at that threshold. It's also worth noting that at least 3 4 and 5 teams will win this week. So all teams in the top 11 will be at least 5 and 5. So that kind of tells you where that cutoff is, that 5 and 7 is going to be almost impossible.
Almost impossible, yeah. Real quick, somebody typed a question, but if anybody wants to come on the air and ask the panel or Cam or anybody who's left or myself a question or make a comment about the playoffs and the seedings that we're looking at right now, you're more than welcome to come on. Just at Winkler in the chat. All right, Cam. So, Gunny, are you back with us? We lost Gunny for a second. I'm trying to see if he's back.
Yes, I came back.
Okay. What stands out to you in the playoff seedings this week?
I think that big Charleston jump was pretty significant because it looks like they flip-flopped with St. Louis from 9 and 13. Florida and Arizona flip-flopped, and then Lone Star and Mexico City flip-flopped. The top 5 kind of remained the same. They just kind of changed positions a little bit.
Yeah, Charleston jumping in, St. Louis falling out. That's pretty huge. Okay, Cam, I've got a really long question from Johnny Pickler for you. So, I'm just going to read it because I can't really paraphrase this too long. He says, the Revs have now defeated 2 teams ranked in the top 5 in the league. Week after week, we have been ranked in power ranking. Oh, I'm sorry. This is for the whole panel. Sorry, Cam, not just for you, but you can answer it first if you want. week after week, we have been ranked in power rankings underneath Baltimore, a team we beat by 2 scores, Jacksonville, a team we beat by 2 scores, and Denver, a team with 8 wins. What do all of the Denver 8 victories have in common? Every single one of those victories are all against teams that currently sit under 500 and out of the playoff picture. So I ask the panel, if you were to place your vote for power rankings this week, who would your power number 1 be? And I think Thomas, and Cam, and I'll let you answer first. Cam Irvine, sorry. Thomas did mention earlier when he recapped the Louisiana-Jacksonville game that he thinks Louisiana sits number 1 and Denver sits number 2. Cam, what do you think?
Well, I go with analytics, and analytics say that common games, Louisiana beats Denver, and so naturally that makes Louisiana number 1 right now. And I also think that a road win, the home win against Baltimore, very impressive, but the road win, and as unconventional as it was against Jacksonville, to turn them over 6 times without a turnover yourself is probably the best resume piece of any team. I don't think another team out there has a resume chip like that victory.
Right.
And so that makes Louisiana the favorite. Ultimately, the number 1 team is the one that wins the title, and you have to go out and do that. But for my money, analytics and eye test say that my twin screw and company have righted the ship.
Yeah.
It's been really impressive.
Yeah. Gunny, what about you? Who do you think is number 1 in the power rankings right now?
With the way that Mr. Pickler was describing the common opponents and who they played, I would say Louisiana would be at the top right now.
Okay. Eagle, what about you?
The question for me is, will Johnny have this performance again, right? Because this was his best performance of the year without question. Saying that, I'm going with Louisiana for right now, but he needs to have another one of those performances to back himself up. If not, I'm going with Baltimore.
Really? Over Denver?
Yeah, Denver's 8-1. Again, they've played a lot of teams under 500, but I'm going Baltimore as a dark horse.
Wow. Okay. Let's see. Cameron Curtis, who do you see as the number one power ranking team in the SFL right now?
Well, let's first start off by saying all those teams are great, but if I had to pick one to be in the top, I would weigh it off of consistency. And right now, I feel there's been no player in this league that's been more consistent than Reggie Streeter. So the question arises, what happens when Streeter is off? And I think Pickler answered that this game for this time. So right now, in my eyes, they're the team to beat, which means they're the number 1 target. I mean, things could change down the road, but that's how I feel right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that there was a lot more debate before last night. I think after last night, I would also give the edge to Louisiana over Denver, and I would actually have Baltimore 3rd. Real quick, Cam, there is a question for you. It was from Benji, and he wants to know if they can have a bottom 11 loser tournament.
Well, given that my time is valuable, no, I'm just kidding. No, you've had your shot, and we'll move on to the playoffs. I want to circle back though about Baltimore. Just again, analytically, I like that as a dark horse pick because Baltimore, outside of Vancouver and Charleston, it's marginal pennies in terms of the difference. But Baltimore has had the toughest schedule, but more importantly, despite having the 3rd toughest schedule barely of all of these 4 and 5 teams, they have the best strength of victory, meaning they have played a tough schedule and they have impressive resumes from that tough schedule, or impressive wins, I should say.
Right.
So because of that, we know that Baltimore can compete with the top and with the best. And obviously Denver can too. They played Baltimore. It was very close, but Baltimore won the game, and football's all about wins. So the Baltimore dark horse pick is great. I think the top 3 of this league are phenomenal. I think Jacksonville took a lot of Rain Rie got hurt. They're what they thought they were going to see against Louisiana. They didn't see necessarily, and I think vice versa. And I think Louisiana they kind of won the blind throw the darts at the dartboard contest. Like I think they had a strategy, and Jacksonville had a strategy, and neither one of them knew what was going to happen, and Louisiana better executed. But Jacksonville's still a pretty good team. Sioux Falls is weird. I don't like the 51-17 blowout in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah.
Because if that can happen, then it can happen again. So that makes me nervous for them. But I can't wait to see Baltimore and Sioux Falls this week. It's going to be a great game. Those two always put on a show when they play each other.
Who does
and all these teams are incredible.
They're all incredible. Who does Sioux Falls have after Baltimore to close out the season the last 2 weeks?
They have Arizona on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And then they host St. Louis.
Okay. So now, especially with that Fort Worth loss, neither of those games look very easy right now. So it's interesting because there are a lot of people, and I know Gunny, you were one of them, Coach, a lot of people picking Sioux Falls to win the whole thing, and I'm not saying they're out of it, but what I'm saying right now is I don't think they're one of the top 3 teams in the league, which, as we get deeper into the playoffs, you want to have that home field advantage too. So wins matter right now, not only just to get you in the playoffs, but to get you some home field. Yeah, Matt, we know Twin Screw is the GOAT. He is. He's just really just playing out of his mind right now. He's coaching out of his mind. He's just having a great thing. And Mike St. Green had a great game last night too. I think somebody mentioned that earlier. His special teams play has been phenomenal. So let me see if there's any more questions, Cam, here before we let you go. Gunny, you have any comments you want to say about Sioux Falls right now? Do you still feel confident for them going down the stretch with the 3 games we just talked about?
I think they're going to take at least 2 of the 3, if not all 3. I mean, this is going to be the hardest one of the 3 with Baltimore. I'm pretty sure they'll stay in the top 4 of the playoff push. But like you said, home field advantage is pretty important.
Yeah, it really is. Okay. Any more questions in the chat? It doesn't look like it. Questions or comments? Everybody's just arguing, it looks like, which is no surprise, and it's kind of the norm lately. In any event, then we're gonna wrap this shindig up. Cam, do you have any other closing arguments or comments you want to make regarding the playoffs or anything else?
Yeah, Dave, you would know this. Has Lone Star played any of the 5 teams?
Yeah, we no. Yeah, we played Sioux Falls and lost.
Oh, that was the really close game, though.
Yeah, but that was
the near comeback.
We almost came back, right?
And I'm not. You know that I would never do this unless it was the truth. I really am fascinated by Lone Star's last month. I think this team. I don't know what they are yet against the best, right? Because you played at Sioux Falls, you played a very close game on the road. You easily could have lied down, and you didn't. Right. And if you just would have had a few more seconds, you might have won the game.
Right.
But I don't know what else Lone Star looks like. And Lone Star is a much better team than a month ago when they played Sioux Falls. So they're a real interesting team for me right now. And I think they could go out and pull an upset. I think Florida has the potential to pull an upset. Charleston. There's so many good teams out there. It's just hard to believe that it's just going to be home teams blasting through the bracket. I think this is the deepest bracket we've had, and some of those 4 and 5 teams have flaws, but some of them, man, they're really good.
Well, you look at you got Charleston and Atlanta sitting at 4 and 5. That's kind of ridiculous. I don't think anybody thought they would be 4 and 5 right now. And also, don't forget Lone Star. We lost in overtime to Florida.
Yeah.
So we're, maybe a minute in total time away from a couple of the victories, a couple more wins, and then who knows? Which, got to tell you, Charles and Coach and Liam and all those guys are doing a phenomenal job coaching us at Lone Star, and I think really that's been the difference maker over the last month. So thanks to you. Thank you for the compliments, Cam. Appreciate it. We're having a blast at Lone Star. We love our locker room, and we're hoping to make a deep run in the playoffs, hopefully. All right. Anybody else got anything else? Let me see. 100% Cam. Nope. I hope we get to play. Oh, that would be fun, Matt. If Louisiana and Lone Star meet up at the playoffs, that would be great. Lone Star is a dark horse. Thank you, Mighty Joe. What else we got in here? Thomas is in here. Oh, Robo, he did say nice things when he did the recap, so he did. Yeah, I think that's about it. And yes, Ace, I agree with you. Our coaches are great. So, who's that? Freddie. Vancouver was 7-0 at halftime, lost 30-7. Oh, they were up 7-0. Yeah, yeah. There's been some crazy turnarounds in some games this season for sure. So, all right, everybody, that's going to be a wrap. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to the panelists, Cameron Curtis, Thomas Smith, and Frank the Franchise Wade. Thank you to Eagle for popping in. Always thanks to Gunny for his pearls of wisdom and other things that he says throughout the show. Thanks to Winkler for producing the show. Appreciate you, bro. And Cam, thanks for coming on again. And not only just doing playoffs this time, but breaking out some games. How do you feel after your first show of actually recapping some games?
It was wonderful. I thought it took too long to get back to me, but other than that, it was great. But I need a break every now and again.
That's why I did it. I gave you a break. I did it for you, bro. You know me. I'm all about everybody else.
I at some point I blacked out in there. I think I fell asleep, but then I woke up and I realized it was because you were talking about Lone Star.
Oh, is that what it was?
Over Mexico City, and it just seemed to drag on forever.
Is that why you brought it up again? Because you didn't have enough of it the first time?
Oh, there's a point. Too bad you lost me over all night.
Are you sure it wasn't Eddie Gage talking?
No, Eddie's still talking. Eddie hasn't wrapped up his point from the last show. What are you talking about? Hey, yo.
Eddie and I missed our meeting today, so that's 2 now.
Wait, what?
That he's upset with me.
Oh,
well, I ran a little long, and then I called him back, and then he didn't answer, and then I didn't hear back from him, so he got busy. But yeah, so that was. I'm sure I'll hear about that, and it'll start with.
Sure, you will.
Cam. That's how it'll start.
Hey, you do that impression pretty good, actually. Wow, look at you doing impressions of Eddie, stealing his T-shirt ideas. You're all over the map with Eddie now.
I can do an impression of you too, Dave.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the show.
Blah, 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 blah. I'm sexy. Blah, 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 blah.
Okay, go ahead and do the impression now.
That was it. That was it, Dave.
Goodbye, Cam. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in again. Thank you again to the panel. I love you guys in the chat. I love the back and forth, the questions, the whole 9 yards. And we will see you Thursday night. We're going to go back to 9 o'clock, and we're going to compete with the NFL. We'll see what happens. So it's the Access Live show versus the NFL. We'll see who comes out on top. In the meantime, you know what to do. Have a glorious night, and I'll see you at the tees.